Hello fellow nerds, it's Alicia. Yes, my hair is pink. It's gonna be pink for a little while, but don't expect it to stay pink forever. That's just how my hair works, as you've probably noticed already. Yeah. Also, look what I picked up today at the store! Ah! I'm so excited to read it. I'm freaking out. Unfortunately, I'm not reviewing this book yet because it just came out yesterday or 2 days ago, depending on when you're watching this. So maybe next time, maybe I'll have finished it by the next Books in the Park and I can do the review on that because I really love this series and it's really, really big and I like it when the books are big. And that sounded wrong. Okay, so on to the actual review. This week we're going to be talking about Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Now, I love Neil Gaiman. Pretty much everything that I've read by him, I've absolutely adored. This is probably one of my favorite things that he has ever written. It's probably one of my favorite books ever, or novellas, whatever you want to call it. It has pages, it's a book. Now, this book is very interesting in the way that it's structured. It revolves around a 40-year-old man who goes home for a funeral, and he goes back to his childhood home and visits a pond that he used to go by with one of his young friends. And this pond triggers a very intense memory that he has of being a child. And the rest of the book is told from that perspective, as if he were the child at that time, and kind of reliving that memory. So the whole book is basically one giant memory. After he and his father discover that one of their boarders has killed themselves inside their car, the narrator goes on to meet a family of magical women. They're pretty much witches, basically. I don't think they're ever really said what exactly they are. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But they're basically witches who kind of have access to magic and have access to different dimensions and things like that. They find out that there's an evil entity trying to worm its way into the world and takes the place of a woman who tries to infiltrate the narrator's life and destroy his family. So it's up to him and all of these magical women to get rid of the evil entity that comes in between them. And honestly, that's all I can tell you. Since the book is pretty short, there's not much more that I can say without being totally spoilery. I like my books like I like my men. Simple. Sorry, Corey. And that's honestly one of the best parts about this book. It's short, sweet, and to the point. There's not a lot of extraneous details. You kind of get exactly what you need. You know, you don't always get the names, you don't always get what exactly is attacking and what exactly is the threat, but that's kind of the interesting part about it. The interesting part is how simple it is and yet how much you can understand through all of that. And Neil Gaiman, that's very different from what he normally does. You know, you look at things like American Gods and things like that, very expansive stories. It's really, really interesting when you get something like this, which is more akin to like Coraline and things like that, where you have to imply a lot of things and there's not anything that's really direct and spelled out for you. Another great thing about this is, of course, Neil Gaiman's storytelling. He has this masterful way of crafting a sentence. I honestly cannot compare him to like anybody else on this planet because he just has this really precise and very British way of describing things and crafting a story that just can't compare to anybody else. The simplicity of it, though, can be a bit of a drawback. The last time I read this book, it was a couple of years ago, and so going into this, I did have to kind of read a synopsis of the book just to refresh my memory on exactly what happened and what took place throughout the story. It's not that it's not memorable. You know, I remember a lot of the great lines that were in it. I remember all of the characters and everything. I just didn't really remember exactly what happened throughout the book, all of the finer details. And I guess that's just what happens when you have a shorter book like this. You spend less time with it, and it kind of leaves your mind a little bit sooner. And again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I actually think it's a good thing because all of the important stuff stuck with me. All of the major themes and the characters and everything like that. It was just the finer details that kind of left. But that's really the only critique that I have of it. It's absolutely gorgeous in its prose. There are some lines, I just want to get this whole book tattooed on me, okay? I just all over everywhere. One leg will be the first half of it, and then the other leg will be the second half, and boom. And just the whole themes about change and about memory and about people growing and becoming something completely different even though staying the same person. It's really interesting and really, I just love it. I can't even hardly put into words how much I love this book. Like, seriously, I was struggling to find a book to pick this week, and I'm like, Ocean at the End of the Lane, because I love it so much. So there you have it, Ocean at the End of the Lane. I know I didn't have as many critiques about it, but it's such a short book that it's hard for me to really go into such details without spoiling everything. And it also is just a book that doesn't have a lot of flaws. Like, every book has its flaws. But honestly, this, it's Neil Gaiman. How am I going to really critique Neil Gaiman? I've been kind of critical of American Gods and things like that before in the past, but this is just such a great book that I had a hard time finding anything really bad about it. So there you go. It's a good read, especially if you want to go into like an afternoon that you have off or something and just sit down with a book and then finish it after a few hours. It's definitely doable. So there you go. I just planned out your Saturday afternoon. You're welcome. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in again to Books in the Park. Next time, I think I'm going to shoot to finish and read Lady Midnight and review it for you. Let's see if that actually happens. I've been kind of getting behind on my my reading, so hopefully I will have this done in 2 weeks so that I can review it for you and tell you what I think about it. Yay! But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to check out all of our social media stuff. All the links are down in the description below for our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. And as always, I remind you, as we depart, stay nerdy.